Hello, everyone. Welcome to Pushing Limits Radio Show with your host, Leonard Cardinelli. You may notice that Brian Shapiro is not here today. This is a travel day. He'll be debating Tim Pool tomorrow. Hold on a second. And we have in studio with us a good friend of Brian Shapiro's, Chris Wynn, will be co-hosting with me today. Chris, how are you today?
I'm doing great, Leonard. Great for having me. Jump in for a couple hours and chop it up a little bit. It's a Friday, right? Great day here in Las Vegas. Outstanding. A little Norman Rockefeller-esque out there, right? Not too hot, not too cold, but Leonard, hey, in studio here, we'll jump into it a little bit. Maybe get a little hot, a little cold when it comes to some of our takes.
For some MAGA callers, you know,
you know it's gonna happen. Leonard, you know the deal.
I really do.
That's it. It absolutely goes down that way.
Yep. So this morning, before we get to just to let you know the rundown, we're going to talk about a bit of the news, and then we're going to go to some clips, and then after that, we'll take a break, and we'll be taking your phone calls right here at 702-221-7283. The first thing I want to talk about was President Trump met with the Hungary president today, the prime minister. And it was an interesting conversation because they got into the border. They started talking, Viktor
Orban.
Viktor Orban.
Yeah.
Yeah. And they started talking about the border in Hungary and how Orban shut it down and he lets 0 people in. But I guess the European Union got upset and they're charging him $1 million a day in sanctions for closing down the border. But from what I understand, the border is not closed down because there is a lot of immigrants that have already made it into the country. But what was interesting about that is that he says that if you're illegal, you got to go. And Trump was agreeing with that. And so here in America, we're just kicking people out, whether they are legal or not, whether they're documented or not. And we'll get into that a little bit later. Yeah. But I think Viktor Orban is a good example of a dictator or a wannabe dictator. What are your thoughts?
Well, authoritarian, without question, right? He definitely has those tendencies. Look, when I hear you describe, this is the first time, by the way, I've heard about this when it comes to Orban and Trump meeting and talking about the border. My first thought, Leonard, is this: getting advice from Viktor Orban with respect to border policies to me is like asking is like me, a 55-year-old, asking a 25-year-old advice when it comes to going to the gym. Okay, yeah, I mean it's just ridiculous. So the idea that Donald Trump should be taking any quote unquote advice from Viktor Orban on on that topic or when it comes to like that issue, I think it's ridiculous. And by the way, Trump, he's not going to listen to him. Trump's going to think that he has all the right answers. Okay, those in the Trump administration that are basically in charge of this quote unquote issue, right? Whether it's Kristi Noem, whether it's Tom Homan, right? Whether it's the powers that be, they're not going to listen to Viktor Orban when it comes to those type of policies.
Well, they were kind of having a kumbaya
it's kind of a
moment,
nothing.
Like,
yeah.
Oh, you shut down the border? Me too. But America is not supposed to be.
Leonard,
shut down a border.
Think about what you just said. Think about what you just said. How ridiculous that is. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And I'm not criticizing you. I'm talking about the idea that I did it too. I mean, what are they? A couple of 12-year-olds talking about on the playground how they, how they're going to team up to bully some kid
who has bigger
hands.
I mean?
Yeah, exactly.
Like a who has bigger hands moment.
It's absurd. It's a ridiculous. It's a ridiculous kind of notion that those two guys are discussing something like that. And look, that this is the reality that we live in, right? This is the reality that we live in.
We have taken in the lowest amount of refugees in all of American history. And we're not even letting people claim asylum anymore. That's America. And that's what really surprised. I mean, how can that be America where we don't accept anyone from any other country? They built this country. And when I was watching it, they were just like two people saying, like nationalists, they were like populists, like it's just us. We don't care about anybody else. We don't need anybody else. But every country throughout history who's done that has suffered because they don't have enough people to run the country and make it profitable. But it's going to be a long time before we see those kinds of results.
Think about it in the context of this country right now when it comes to this issue, right, Leonard? And it comes to immigration and more specifically the border, right? Because immigration is a much more broader concept that the United States government has to deal with as opposed to just the quote unquote border, right? And the issues down at the border. It's a different type of situation.
71% of America likes the fact that the border is controlled and you have to come in legally and there's a legal process.
Right.
But 80% doesn't like how they're doing it. They don't like masked men in camouflage who have no experience, no training, and they're just throwing grandmothers on the ground. And the Republicans are like, oh, well, you know, she should have had her visa. And they're like, she did have a visa. She had a work visa. Oh, well, I guess she's just going to have to get deported. So I look at it as what they're doing is very un-American. But we do have some clips, and if you don't mind, we can go to the first one. The first one I chose a kind of a funny one because this is Joe Rogan asking Elon Musk, who had called Mamdani, the mayor Mamdani of New York City, a swindler. And so Joe Rogan wants him to define what exactly he's talking about.
Donnie's a swindler. I know he has a bunch of fake accents that he used to use.
Yeah.
And, you know, but what else has he done that makes him a swindler?
Well, I guess if you say if you say to any audience whatever that audience wants to hear, instead of having a consistent message, I would say that is a swindly thing to do. Yeah, but he is charismatic.
There it is. Hey, at the end there, he was actually accurate, right? And by the way, a lot of people, this has kind of been the MO. A lot of people have talked about this. Anthony Scaramucci, friend of the show here at PTL, right? He talked about this a couple days ago about Mom Down. Look, he's a young guy who's charismatic, right? Who absolutely kind of tapped into this thing when it comes to affordability in New York City, which is the most important aspect and important issue in that city, which is why he got elected. It's why he got elected. And to be honest with you, it's a big reason why Donald Trump got elected, because he spouted out that he was going to address affordability, right, and the economy and make it better for everyday Americans and make it and lower prices for everyday Americans. That's what Mamdani, when it comes to rent, when it comes to his policy, his quote unquote policies, capping when it comes rent. To capping rent, things like that. Everyday New Yorkers are down with that, and that's how he got elected. And having the discussion, by the way, it's kind of hilarious too, because Joe Rogan, basically just posing. It's not really a layup, but it's an opportunity for.
It was good though. He said, "Okay,
it was an opportunity for Elon."
How's he a swindler? He's charismatic.
How about this? If you're going to call him a swindler, okay, come with some type of facts or receipts that back it up.
He was actually the opposite, because the reason he was popular, Mamdani was popular because he's a straight shooter, because he says it like it is. And when he says, I'm going to try to get free transportation from everyone, and they say, hey, that guy's a democratic socialist, and people go, hold on, because he's talking about capping my rent. So that's what I want to hear. And so the Republicans were not able to twist that message into a social and what's wrong with socialism anyway? If you drive on the street...
I hate this when people, and I'm not attacking Leonard, but there's people out there that don't know the difference between democratic socialism and communism. There's numerous differences. But there's a lot of people, particularly MAGA people, and on the right, who have been absolutely calling him a communist. Okay, and they don't even read communism. And then they say socialist. Okay, as if And by the way, socialism, just straight socialism, and democratic socialists are also two things that are different. They're similar in ways, but you understand my point. People use that word and they're like, oh, it's like the boogeyman.
Yeah, I talked to family members just last night.
He's a democratic socialist.
I said, have you ever driven on a public road? Yes. Have you ever walked on a sidewalk?
Right.
Have you ever had street lights help you get where you're going? You ever have a sewer system? Well, then you know what? That's socialism. So if it's a bad word, have you ever went to a park? Have you ever sat in a park? Did you swing on the swings? Because all of that is paid for with the taxes. You ever call a police officer? You ever dial 911?
Absolutely.
You ever ask for your house is on fire, call for a fireman or medical? That's all. That is socialism. You can't live without it. And then, of course, there's a capitalism argument. And, I don't want to get in the weeds too much on that. But in the next clip, we have Marjorie Taylor Greene, who I guess is flip-flopping because she's mad Trump didn't support her for Senate, or she wants to get reelected, or whatever the reason is, but she's really taking a side against the conservative Republicans. So she is asked if she agrees with the president, when the president says there's virtually no inflation and no grocery prices are going, grocery prices are going down. Do you agree?
The president says there's virtually no inflation and that grocery prices are going down. Do you agree with him on that?
No, I go to the grocery store myself. Grocery prices remain high. Energy prices are high. My electricity bills are higher here in Washington, D.C. at my apartment, and they're also higher at my house in Rome, Georgia, higher than they were a year ago. So affordability is a problem, and I'm a mom. My kids are 22, 26, and 28. That's the generation I worry about the most, and they're having a very hard time. But when I go back home and I talk to many of my constituents, I'm hearing stories of not only are we having a really hard time affording groceries and rent and things like that, but I'm also hearing stories about people maxing out their credit cards just to afford their monthly expenses.
So when the president says that it's not that affordability hasn't been fixed, it's that people and Republicans aren't talking about it enough. That seemed to be a takeaway of his from Tuesday night's elections. Mm-hmm. You disagree with that sentiment? I
think Tuesday was definitely a referendum on how leaders in this country are leading. And I believe in America First policies. That's why I campaigned for President Trump and have supported him as long as I have, and I do support him. But I want all of my colleagues to come through in action in supporting America First policies. And I think the American people showed that on Tuesday. You're not going to convince them to go to the polls and vote by bailing out Argentina. And you're not going to convince them to go to the polls and vote by continuing to fund foreign wars and foreign countries and foreign causes. You're going to get them to go to the polls and vote when you show up to work and actually fix the problems that they face every single day.
Yeah, so Marjorie Taylor Greene, a complete flip-flop, totally against Trump, and then brings up, the blue wave that struck and the leadership. But you know what? You know what the thing is? Like she said it, you don't have to listen to Trump's BS. You can go to the grocery store. The other day I went and got 2 bags of groceries and just some essentials for the house, $150. I went and got gas, and this is true because I get premium, $4.96 a gallon. You don't have to listen to the rhetoric and the politics to know that costs are up. And yes, and that's why they got their butts kicked. That's why Tuesday was a referendum on Trump, in my opinion. 467 elections in Pennsylvania alone, local elections, including sheriffs, and only 11 were won by Republicans. Is that not a referendum? Is that not a mandate?
Well, here's the deal on Marjorie Taylor Greene, and you talked about this on the show as well as Shap and PTL Nation out there. Leonard, myself, Numchuck, we go to grocery stores, okay?
Yeah.
We go to gas stations. We're everyday people, okay? Donald Trump, I honestly would love to know the last time Donald Trump even stepped foot into a grocery store with the intent of actually going and buying something.
He's so far from buying groceries.
Like, give me a break.
He
so
probably
that's
has
one.
a couple of dozen people that shop for him.
You know what I'm saying? So it's just so ludicrous. And then you hear him talking about using ID at the grocery store.
Who do you think buys his McDonald's?
It's like, hey, Donnie, okay? You got to use ID.
Who buys his McDonald's?
If you're going to buy booze.
What about McDonald's? Should he have to use ID?
I think
to get his fries at McDonald's?
To get his Whopper. And
that is a really good
idea. And his
idea.
double cheeseburger and his chicken McNuggets.
They should have ID.
It's so absurd, right? Kind of like the framework and his state of mind, and just the way he talks about these scenarios, like he does it when he does it. He's not someone
so the Republicans are obviously in an alternate reality, right? You could say to them, water's wet. You could say the sky is blue, and they say, well, Trump said water's not wet, so I believe him.
But getting back to your point that you brought up about Marjorie Taylor Greene, right? She has engaged in this. It's been kind of fascinating. You want to use the word? You call it flip flopping, which is correct. This has been a change ever since the Epstein files stuff came up, right? And she was someone.
She got 3
that's
daughters,
where she started to kind of turn.
What she bases it
right?
on.
She kind of started to turn.
Yeah, but this is much
against
further.
Trump and against her own party, and now it's gone into the shutdown, right? Where now she's someone, and there are situations where Marjorie Taylor Greene says things, right, Leonard, that are correct and that makes sense. It's the old analogy, you know, a broken clock is right twice a day.
Not the laser thing.
The sun even shines on a dog's ass some days. You know what I mean? Like, you know, sometimes even though she's someone who in the past has said things that are disgraceful and ridiculous, you know, the Jewish space laser stuff.
I would say this is
and
helpful.
all that.
This is helpful for her to come out and say this. But
So-
let's get to the next clip because we have a lot of them. Sorry to cut you off.
No, you're good.
So in the next clip, Trump is being asked about Chief Justice Roberts, the head guy. He's saying that that tariffs are taxes paid by Americans, and Trump says
Again, it's
they're
not. Yeah, it is.
Let's hear the clip.
Yesterday in the Supreme Court, Chief Justice Roberts said that tariffs are taxes, and that they're paid by Americans. He said this pretty clearly. And yet you're saying that this money is rolling in from other countries. How do you square those two?
Well, it's coming in because they've charged us. You know, those same countries that you talk about are charging us massive amounts of money. If you look at the tariffs over the years that were put on our heads, there's a reason we're $38 trillion owed. Now that money's going to start coming down. But we had presidents that didn't know how to use tariffs. We had presidents that had no understanding of business. But if you take a look at what's happened to us, every country charges tariffs. China.
Okay.
Yeah.
So pretty clear. Chief Justice Roberts, smart guy. But when he says they're charging us, that makes no sense because China assesses the tariffs. When they assess tariffs, it's competitive. I get the trade war. But the Chinese people pay that money. We send American goods, we export American goods to China, and then China puts a tariff on them to discourage people from buying all the American products. Just like us, our businesses, and then he said, well, I think we get to the clip later. I'm not going to get into the weeds too much about the amount and the trillions and
Well, we don't
et
get in the
cetera,
weeds. We can have a discussion about this. So, look, this is the problem we have in America right now, Leonard, okay, is that we engage in conversations that are not factually accurate, all right? When you hear a clip, when you hear Donald Trump, the President of the United States, say something that is factually inaccurate, okay, what happens?
It sounds like he doesn't know tariffs.
Well, no, I'm going to tell you what happens. What happens is MAGA people or people on the right just dismiss it or act like they didn't hear it, right? Or try to twist themselves into pretzels to make it be a thing that's true, okay? And then those of us that are on the left or or independents, right? Or people that
with
that
common
have their
sense.
feet in reality and have common sense, understand that at the end of the day, who are the people that end up paying when it comes to tariffs? Who are the people that end up on the wrong side of it when it comes to tariffs?
We're going to get to that a little bit later.
People.
Yeah.
Well, I'm just pointing
And we're
that
going
out.
to play a clip
So it's
later that
discussion.
clearly
Yeah.
outlines that we are the ones paying. So on the next clip, it's Don Jr. talking about how the Epstein list needs to be released because Democrats have something to hide. Now remember, this is in June of 2024, so this is not a current clip. But before his dad got involved, this is Donnie Jr.'s opinion on the Epstein files.
How is it that my father can be convicted of 34 crimes, but no one on Epstein's list has even been brought to light? I'm trying to figure out how that's possible, right, Bert? It's almost like they're trying to protect those pedophiles for some reason. I can't imagine why, right?
Why is the FBI protecting the greatest pederast, the largest scale pederast in human history?
Simple, because of who's on that list.
Everybody in politics has a vice that's much worse than alcoholism, is the way that I put it. But we release the list. Seriously, we need to release the Epstein list. That is an important thing.
The DOJ may be releasing the list of Jeffrey Epstein's clients? Will that really happen?
It's sitting on my desk right now to review. That's been a directive by President Trump.
In this case, in Epstein's case, it is incredibly disturbing. We have flight logs, we have information, names that will come out.
I'm not ever going to let this story go because of what I heard from a source about Bill Clinton on a plane with Jeffrey Epstein. I'm not letting it go, ever. Ever.
Are you still talking about Jeffrey Epstein? This guy's been talked about for years. You're asking, we have Texas, we have this, we have all of the things. And are people still talking about this guy, this creep? That is unbelievable.
That's not unbelievable. And Dan Bongino said he was never going to let it go. He let it go. Pam Bondi said the list. She didn't say the reports on my desk. She said the list. is on my desk. Kash Patel said the reason we're not releasing the list is because, well, the people that are on it. But when the Democrats had this red meat thrown to them, I mean, the Republicans had this red meat thrown to them, to the MAGA crowd, they thought they were going to entangle some powerful Democrats who were involved in a cabal that was taking place all over the world with children. And what they found out is that maybe some of their very leaders, maybe some of their favorite people. So now Mike Johnson has shut down the Congress for almost 7 weeks, because he doesn't want Adelita Grijalva to vote and be the 218 vote. But there is a rumor too, and I don't know if you've heard this, but there's a rumor that Mike Johnson is hesitating to bring back the Republicans to Congress because there's a possibility someone may suggest a vote on the floor for a new speaker.
So back to those clips, right? The barrage of clips we just heard. What's the running theme on all those clips? The running theme is, right? Is that,
let's get them.
No, is that when the Epstein files come up, all right? And it's a political situation, right? You need to highlight people that are Democrats or on the left who we think are, culpable from a legal standpoint, that dealing with the Epstein situation, and focus on that, right? But brought up Bill Clinton, other people that are Democrats
Let me interrupt you. If Bill Clinton's on there, I'm cool with that.
Yeah, but
I have no problem with Bill
Clinton. That's the difference that we talked about. And by the way, you and Shap and others on the show, and by the way, there's a great dialogue when it comes to the YouTube chat, right? Nunchuck across the board. Yes, I do like chocolate and Red Bull, by the way, but none of that today yet. But and keep them coming, both on the YouTube feed as well as on the Facebook feed as well too, from PTL Nation. But yeah, that the running theme is what? It's people that are MAGA or on the right that want to characterize the situation as, oh yeah, we got to focus on the lefties and the Democrats that we think are culpable when it comes to Epstein
and as soon as it wasn't them, there's nothing to see here.
100%, right, Leonard? When it comes to Donald Trump or anybody that happens to be on the right, nothing to see here, right? It's like the scene from Beverly Hills Cop. The comedian, what's his name? The guy with the funny voice.
Eddie. No,
you know I'm talking about, the comedian who has the parking tickets, and Eddie Murphy goes in there and says, "Hey,
Gilbert
Gottfried,
yeah.
Gilbert Gottfried in Beverly Hills Cop." He's like, "Yeah,
if I give
you $200 in this hand just
these
goes away.
These parking tickets go away."
Right? That's kind of what kind of the mentality when it comes to MAGA. And it comes to
they thought they were going to get who they wanted, and now that it's looking like Trump and his people. Remember, in March, there were 1,000 field agents pulled into the FBI to go over 100,000 pages of documents and to expunge Trump's name from all the documents. So why would they do that? If somebody knocked on my door and said, "Hey, people are accusing you, and we need to see the documents," I'd be like, "I didn't do any of that. Here, look it over. Here's the proof. I didn't." But if someone does something wrong, then they don't want the documents revealed, which is exactly what's going on.
But let's reiterate, Leonard, what you said, and I 100% agree. The difference between you and I, okay, and a lot of people out there, right, is that we think, regardless of your political ideology, okay, if you're involved in that situation, and if you're somebody that has done something criminally, just awful when it comes to the Epstein situation, you should be prosecuted to the full extent of the law. That's the belief that you have, I have,
everybody,
and a lot of people should
have. They said, "Well, there's Dems in there." Okay,
yeah,
let's
go.
go.
Want to make it political? And
let's get them all. They were trafficking in children in a children's sex ring. Let's get them all. Next clip. Yeah. If we're moving on, next clip is a good one. AOC exposes the Trump administration for ending any legal status in the U.S. and making people undocumented. So they're taking people who go into court and have a court date. And the judges are being told, because there was a judge interviewed, he's being told to drop the case. And then while they're sitting in the lobby with their attorney waiting to go in, they're being arrested by ICE. Let's hear the clip.
Apologies, I just have 10 seconds left. But when they say illegal versus legal immigration, they are trying to end legal status in the United States as well. Correct, Governor Pritzker, with the end of TPS and making people undocumented by removing legal status, ending legal status, and then having the audacity to call them illegal when they were here documented, correct?
Taking students' visas away from people, taking their legal right to be in the United States away from them when they've been granted maybe years earlier to stay.
So I don't want to hear about how this is about illegal versus legal immigration. They are attacking legal status and removing legal status. The Republican majority is anti-legal immigration in the United States. And I want to make that very clear, and I yield back.
Well, this reminds me of a couple of days ago. ICE tried to do a traffic stop on a Hispanic lady. She gets out. She goes into the daycare. They chase her in the daycare, take her into custody. And while they have her on the ground, people are yelling, she's here on a work visa. She's here legally. They don't stop. There's no probable cause. There's no reasonable suspicion. They don't need to use the force. And I think you may know, but I was a police officer for 25 years.
Yeah.
And we had to follow the search and seizure, the Fourth Amendment, the Fifth Amendment. We had to follow everything, people's rights, the First Amendment to the letter of the law, the 14th Amendment, search and seizure. And for them to do what they're doing is not only thuggery, in my opinion. Even if my agency back in the day allowed me to do it, I would say no, I'm not doing that. We need to have probable cause. We have a constitution that says that people have inherent rights, and it doesn't say citizens. It says all people get due process. All people.
Again, but an important thing here is the framing and the characterization, right? It's the way that ICE is conducting themselves, right, is not the way it was done previously, right? Before, this, and by the way, this is all a product of Stephen Miller, really. I mean, Stephen Miller's kind of
the
point man in the administration.
Is probably almost all him.
Exactly.
But let me interrupt. Let me ask you one.
No, but
I don't know you that well.
I want to point out that.
Go ahead.
That
what
point,
about when you think about 1933? Just on a quick point, Stephen Miller. When you think of 1933, and when Hitler became the chancellor, and he took away all the powers from all of the parliament, doesn't it seem they had a secret police? They were throwing people in cars. They were disappearing people. Doesn't it seem kind of similar?
Look, we can get into it can be hyperbolic at times, though, if we start talking like that. You know what I mean? Like,
to whom?
I think you can make that again. And this is me. I'm a Democrat. I'm a lefty. Okay,
yeah, but who's it hyperbolic?
It's hyperbolic in the sense that you're almost maybe people are going to think about that you're making a straight comparison to the two.
That's on them. I didn't make a straight comparison.
Yeah, you know what I mean?
Question.
And look, Stephen Miller has a lot of power as an, by the way, and people have used this phrase of him. They think he is the most unelected, most powerful unelected individual that's in the government right now.
Yeah, what happened to meritorious?
I think you can make the case that's the case.
Yeah, the case on DEI was let's do meritorious from now on.
But I think
let's do it by merit.
I guess hyperbolic maybe not the right way to describe it. Maybe say maybe we're
no, it could be triggering. I would have
you know what I'm
agree.
saying? Like that is absolutely can be fuel to MAGA and right wingers fire. When we start talking like that, we're like making straight comparisons to Nazi Germany, right? To Hitler, when he came in. Obviously, you're talking about before right when he came in.
Well, I was talking about the Enablement Act. Remember the Enablement Act?
Right.
That basically, he said they gave him power to go supersede the parliament, to do anything he wanted with the military, to go into the cities. I mean, there's a lot of comparisons. And if you look at before he became the chancellor, he was the Fuhrer since 1920.
Yes.
And if you look at the ideology, some of it is, the nationalism. They picked a race to hate. They made everybody hate a certain race. I mean, I don't know. I don't mean to trigger anybody.
Well,
but
I'll respond. I'm picking up what you're putting down, Leonard. I am. Okay. And I understand the direction you're going. I think it's different, though, in the context that, look, this is 2025 in America. We still are a democratic republic.
Good point.
We still are. Okay. And I do think that we talked about this at length, right, about guardrails being chiseled away at, right, in our government, and I absolutely think there's some meat on the bone to that discussion, but we still do live in a democratic republic. We do have guardrails, I believe, and I don't think maybe this is just me being hopeful, right, Leonard, me being hopeful that this is a country that even if Trump does serve his entire 4 years, if he is here. And there is going to be significant damage that's done to this country.
Oh, yeah.
Okay, across the board.
There's 153,000 jobs that were cut in October. And now that came from the businesses because Trump fired the head of the Department of Labor. And as you know, he won't allow the Department of Labor to put out statistics anymore. So let's play the clip.
Jobs data. Since we're not getting the official data from the government, we are looking to all these private sources. And Challenger Grand Christmas, which is an employment firm, put out, they always do these layoff numbers. This one was a doozy. So the most job cuts for any October in more than 2 decades, going back to 2003. Companies announced 153,000 about job cuts last month, which was almost triple the number during the same month last year. And the question is why? Well, if you go to the quote from Challenger in the release, I mean, they do mention disruptive technology and AI changing the landscape. They actually compare it to 2003 when the cell phone was invented. But you know, there are all sorts of reasons we have heard from companies lately about job cuts. And if you look at Target or UPS or Amazon, I mean, all of these companies have announced job cuts recently. Paramount, Skydance announcing recent job cuts as well. Starbucks, Delta Airlines, CarMax, Rivian Automotive. Yeah, some of them talk about, you know, technology. Amazon spoke about that, but a lot of them are just sort of restructuring and right-sizing their businesses after, you know, hiring a lot during COVID. But
we're facing challenges a la Paramount. You just have to take out a lot of structural costs if you can.
Right. Yeah, and that also comes from an acquisition. But the bottom line is it's adding up to a narrative where we're starting to be a little bit more concerned about the job market. We know the Fed is more concerned right now about the job market and the labor market, and we're just not getting the weekly, you know, initial jobless claims. We hadn't seen a lot of layoffs in those numbers. And the caveat here is that the Challenger data is very volatile. It doesn't always correspond to what we get on the government data, but we're paying closer attention to it these days because we're not getting the government data, and we are starting to hear these announcements from companies.
Yeah, couple that with year-to-date hiring, I think the worst since 2011, weakest holiday seasonal hiring since 2012. So for a long time we talked about no hire, no fire. That's changing a little bit.
Okay, so what's going on is Trump doesn't want to look bad. If you remember in December of last year, when Joe Biden was still president, technically, we added 247,000 jobs that month. And then we added close to the same number in January. However, since then, it has slightly fallen off. And Trump said on day one he was going to make the economy better. On day one, I'm going to bring down costs for you. None of that happened, none of it. And now they're trying to hide the fact that they lost 153,000 jobs just last month alone. And that's just the numbers that we could get a hold of from the businesses. That's not actually the labor statistics, which, if I had to take a guess, is probably much worse. Does this sound like a strong economy?
No. And this is exactly not what they were elected on, right? Correct me if I'm wrong.
The opposite.
But the reason why Donald Trump and J.D. Vance were put in the White House was what? Was to improve the situation. Was to improve the economy, was to have a job growth market that was robust instead of something that is going backwards. There's been numerous examples.
Unemployment was at an all-time low under
There's numerous
Biden.
examples, of where the Trump administration, since they rolled in there in late January, numerous examples of the Trump administration being on the backside of things instead of being at the forefront when it comes to either the economy or whether it's foreign or domestic policy, whether it's immigration, et cetera, et cetera. There's been numerous situations in which they have fallen far short of
Unemployment
what they were
was
expected
at
to
an
do.
all-time low under Biden. Okay.
Yeah, I mean,
they added more than 1.1 million jobs under Biden. And then Trump comes in and he does just exactly the opposite. He said he was going to stop the Ukraine-Russian war before I was inaugurated. He said, I'll do it within the first day if I'm elected. What happened? That never
Leonard,
happened.
the president of the United States, just yesterday, comes out, and he does this every single day. He lies to the American people. Came out
Well, 37%
and was
still believe
confronted
him.
in an interview, Leonard, about talking about food prices, right? Food prices have risen 6%, right? Since Donald Trump, since this point last year, they've risen 6%. Donald Trump was put right in front of his face by the interviewer, and Donald Trump straight up lied to her and said, no, that's not true. They're going down. This is the environment that we live in,
Yeah.
Leonard, okay? This is the environment we live in. We live in a fact-free world right now where facts don't matter, reality doesn't matter, okay? And and I got news for you. This is the first year. We have 3 more years of this idiocy and nonsense to go.
Hopefully they'll take the midterms, and they were talking about maybe an impeachment process, but we'll see. He's been impeached twice, by the way. The next clip we have is Mayor Mamdani talking about how the Trump administration has not reached out to him, and he would really like to talk to them.
Yeah,
about the
shocker there,
economy.
right?
He has 2 million people that are on SNAP benefits. So he's saying, I really want to reach out to him. I really want to sit down with him. And
the White House hasn't reached out to congratulate me. I continue to be interested in having a conversation with President Trump on the ways in which we can work together to serve New Yorkers, whether that be delivering on his campaign promises around cost of living or the many issues that New Yorkers have been sharing with me about the drastic impacts that the legislation that President Trump has ushered through Washington will mean for them and their lives. Too often we understand these impacts solely at an individual level, but if we just speak a little bit more about SNAP benefits, these are not just affecting the close to 2 million New Yorkers who are on SNAP, these also affect the grocery stores across our city. There were a number of mom and pop owned grocery stores that spoke to me about the fact that in the Bronx, SNAP revenues make up more than a quarter of all of their revenue. And this has the impact of decimating their ability to keep their doors open. And so I look forward to having those conversations and to making clear that if there is ever anything to be spoken about that could benefit the people of the city, I am ready and willing to speak to anyone about it. But if it is a conversation to come at the expense of those people, then I will fight that idea tooth and nail, because my job is to serve this city.
Well said. Oh, and by the way, before we talk about the clip, if you don't mind, there is a rumor that people may be pushing Mamdani to replace Chuck Schumer. And I don't know how you feel, but Chuck Schumer is the old guard, and we need some new blood and some new ideas and some new energy. And Chuck Schumer obviously has a lot of power, and I don't see him ever giving up that power. But what's interesting about this clip is I think he's challenging Trump to contact him so they could talk about some things, but he's still just a city mayor. And so I'm not hopeful. I don't think the Trump administration will want to sit down with him at all, because I think the Trump administration knows that it may end up making them look bad.
Well, here's the deal. He's the mayor of the biggest, most important city in the country. So, he's going to have some clout. But make no mistake about it. Anybody shocked, really, that Donald Trump or the Trump administration is not going to come out and congratulate Mamdani for winning this race? Come on. He's especially the way that the Trump supporters and MAGA talk about Mamdani, right? Like there's no scenario whatsoever where you're going to have anybody from the Trump administration come out and praise Mamdani or give him any type of credit whatsoever.
No, they
for
said a
winning
lot of
elections.
racist things about him, and in his speech.
But to your point about Chuck Schumer, it's a bigger discussion, right? Because you're talking about
it's just simmering.
Look,
it's just starting.
Right now, he's just beginning to be the mayor of New York City. Yeah. The transition into Washington D.C. and working in Democratic politics in D.C. Is something that's later on down the line. But what it leads to is we're talking about a younger generation, right? A younger generation on both sides of the aisle.
I don't know about age, but maybe newer ideas.
Oh, it's definitely age. Well, you're talking about Mamdani.
Not everybody.
AOC, Mamdani.
But
You're talking about
the older crowd, the older voters. They want new ideas. I don't. To just pigeonhole it and say we need younger people.
I'm not pigeonholing it. I'm just talking about the actual people who are, you're talking about AOC, right? You're talking about Mamdani. You're talking about Josh Shapiro. You're talking about Josh Shapiro. You're talking about
Crockett.
Jasmine Crockett. You're talking about Andy and
Chris Murphy.
Andy, what's his last name? In Kentucky, the governor of Kentucky, who's going to be a rising star, who's definitely going to be one of the guys, I think, when it comes to 2028.
I forget his last name.
Andy. Yeah, Andy. I can't remember his last name either. When you're talking about Wes Moore in Maryland, right? There are a lot of names out there and we're talking about people that are not yet 40, right? A lot of them are not yet 40. So I'm talking about
50 or 60.
And on the Republican side,
better than 79.
And on the Republican side, right? You're talking about guys like Josh Hawley, right? Or J.D. Vance, who's the vice president. And look, we get into the weeds about him.
I hope he runs.
Yeah, there's a lot of people. Andy Bashir, right? Our guy Matt Viska, friend of the show, just texted Andy Bashir out of Kentucky. He's going to be.
Yeah, so the thing is, Chuck Schumer, a few months ago when push came to shove, he says, I sent the president a strongly worded letter with 8 tough questions. That is not, Mamdani doesn't speak in those terms. He says, I'm going to cap rent. He says, I want free transportation for all. He says, I'm going to go to the bodegas and I'm going to find a way to subsidize them because the bodegas are what keep the poverty-stricken neighborhoods running. That's where they get their food. That's where they get their items. And without some kind of subsidy and with SNAP going away, I thought what he did was brilliant. He just said, yes, I'm a democratic socialist. However, this is how I'm going to help you.
Right.
And I think that's how he, one of the reasons he got elected. In the next clip, Trump is talking about how the Dems should get, how the Republicans should get rid of the filibuster.
Mm-hmm.
And he's saying, get rid of it. Just make a vote. But I don't think he quite understands why they're hesitating. I think he lacks the political depth to understand what's at stake. So
Donald Trump lacks political depth? That's amazing.
I mean,
yeah.
I think he just says, I want to win right now, and he's not concerned about, because if they take away the filibuster, just keep in mind, in the midterms, if the Democrats take over the House and the Senate or whatever, and they take over the Senate,
then they can run wild too.
And there's no filibuster.
They can run wild too.
All they need is 50-50, and then the vice president obviously breaks the tie, but that would happen all the time. So let's play the clip.
Remember, Republicans, regardless of the Schumer shutdown, the Democrats will terminate the filibuster the first chance they get. They will pack the Supreme Court of the United States, pick up 2 states, that's a lot of states, and add at least 8 electoral votes. Their 2 objectors are gone. Remember, Sinema and Manchin, they're gone. Don't be weak. Don't be stupid, Republicans. Fight, fight, fight. Win, win, win. We will immediately end the extortionist shutdown, get all of our agenda passed, and make life so good for Americans that these deranged Democrat politicians will never again have the chance to destroy America. They tried to destroy your country. Republicans, you will rue the day that you didn't terminate the filibuster. Be tough, be smart, and win. This is much bigger than the shutdown. This is the survival of our country. Terminate the filibuster, and let's live the great life that this country is capable of living.
Can I just say, before we actually chop it up on what that BS that
was
just said,
that nonsense that he just spouted off left and right?
There's also another issue. So what about the issue if you get rid of the filibuster? What about the issue where you have 50 or 51 Republicans and 49 of them don't want something, but a couple of Democrats jump on board? You only need one now. They got a 54, so you only need one Democrat to push legislation through that does not meet the filibuster requirements. So it's a very dangerous thing, going down from 60.
But just regards to his comments, right? The projection, Leonard, is off the charts. Okay, the projection, the amount that of bad faith dialogue and that type of scenario is just so brutal. He's talking about packing the Supreme Court. The only reason Democrats would even need to do would even need to engage in a situation like that is because of what has transpired already, right? I mean, Ruth Bader Ginsburg had passed away 5 seconds ago. And what did the Republicans do? They nominate Amy Coney Barrett to the bench. Literally like a matter of days before.
And she lied the
Leonard,
whole time.
Days before the election. They nominated her and she was put in office. This is right after Mitch McConnell and Republicans complained that when Democrats tried to nominate
Merrick Garland.
We can't do it because it's in an election year, because it's in the same calendar year of an election year. But this is what we're dealing
like
with,
you said,
Leonard.
we're different
Leonard,
people than
this
them.
is what we're dealing with. We're dealing with projection, and Donald Trump just engaged in it right there. Again, characterizing it the way that Republicans are being held hostage by Democrats, and that's the reason behind the shutdown, which is not factually accurate, which is not true.
Do you think he understands that Democrats could pass stuff if it doesn't have to get to 60?
It's just so brutal.
If they're close to the Republicans in the Senate on an item, and the Democrats want it, all they need is 51. That means they only have to flip 3 people.
The word projection and the word hypocrisy, it just raises its head, Leonard.
Yeah.
Numerous times, over and over and over and over again, and this is exactly another situation where that's taking place.
This next clip is interesting because now we're gonna hear from the Oregon Attorney General talking about trying to convince people that we, the Americans, don't pay the taxes, don't pay the tariffs. Let's listen to the clip.
My name is Dan Rayfield, Attorney General for the state of Oregon. We're proud to bring this case today. I think there was something that was incredibly important that was said today, and it wasn't said by any of our attorneys. It was said by President Donald Trump's Solicitor General when he looked Justice Roberts squarely in the eyes and said the American people, not foreign countries, but the American people are going to pay 30 to 80% of these tariffs, and then had the gall to look all of those justices again in the eye and say that these are not taxes on the American people. And they're doing it by abusing an emergency power. And I think that was the conversation that we heard today.
So American people are going to pay 30 to 80%. Oregon Attorney General Dan Rayfield, and then almost in the same sentence turns around and says, but I can assure you that the Americans are not paying this tax. I can assure them that we've already paid. So later on, we're going to get into it, but Trump says trillions were taken in on the tariffs, okay? The fact is only about 195 million was taken in on the tariffs. And it's such a small number. 195 million is essentially what they pay back to Americans at tax time every year. So it's not trillions that have to get paid back. And Trump is claiming irreparable harm. He's saying if we have to pay that money back, you know, there'll be irreparable harm. Well, what about the businesses that had to pay that tariff to the tune of $20,000 and $30,000 for a small business, to the tune of $500,000 to $1 million for big businesses? What happened? This is money that we are paying, and I can't understand why the MAGA Republicans, the shady MAGAs, I can't understand why they just can't get it in their head that you're paying this.
Well, here's the deal, right? And by the way, surprised that something coming out of the White House is not accurate with the facts when it comes to the tariff situation. And by the way, this goes back to a lot of different situations, particularly COVID-19, right? Here's the deal, right, Leonard? I want to listen to the people that are the actual experts, right? The people that actually know what they're talking about. The individuals that are professionals, that are experts.
Business
when it comes to these types of things. I don't want to listen to Donald Trump. I don't want to listen to J.D. Vance. I don't want to listen to Democrats who think they know what they're talking about. And I definitely don't want to listen to my buddy who I happen to, work in the service industry with in Vegas, who thinks he's some expert too when it comes to tariffs.
What about cattle farmers?
I want to hear from the people that know what they're talking about and not the people that know nothing about nothing about nothing. And it happened with COVID-19, by the way, a lot, and it's still happening with COVID-19.
What about cattle farmers?
And yeah.
They're saying they can't sustain
how about this,
the
Americans?
tariffs.
Listen to the people that know what they're talking about and that are speaking facts, and don't listen to the people that have an agenda.
The meat
that
farmers.
Just want to make this.
What about soybean farmers?
Yeah, exactly. About the what? Yeah. What about
the tariffs? Could almost put the soybean farmers out of business. If Trump didn't make that deal with China, and I believe the soybean industry had a lot to do with him backing down on China, not because he's so tough and powerful, and Xi Jinping wanted to make a deal. He was catching a lot of crap from the soybean, because 70% of the soybean in America goes to China. And you know how much China was taking in at the time? 0%. The next clip is it kind of ties in. Trump is selling tariffs as a money machine, telling America we're taking in trillions and trillions of dollars here. But here's the problem. You can't assess taxes as a president without going through the Congress. There is an emergency provision. The emergency provision is the president can assess 15%, but only for 150 days. And at the end of that 150 days, the president has to go back to the Congress and ask for legislation to pass the same tariffs. And if it's a zero-sum game and you're charging tariffs because it's costing America to run a business, that's kind of licensing. That could be, this is what they talked about in the Supreme Court.
Right.
It could be licensing or licensing fees, but as soon as you get into a profit, as soon as it's net positive in money, which Trump says is trillions and trillions, then it's illegal. And that's what this clip is about.
The Supreme Court today, oral arguments in a case pivotal to the president's economic agenda, whether he can claim emergency powers to impose the sweeping global tariffs. At issue, his use of a law dating back nearly 50 years called the International Emergency Economic Powers Act. Today, several members of the court's conservative majority seem skeptical of the president's authority to do that, and the Solicitor General downplayed their fiscal impact.
We don't contend that what's being exercised here is the power to tax. It's the power to regulate foreign commerce. These are regulatory tariffs. They are not revenue-raising tariffs. The fact that they raise revenue is only incidental.
Incidental, said the Solicitor General, which is not what the president says.
The tariffs have been so good. We're taking in trillions and trillions of dollars. But thank God for tariffs. we're the richest nation in the world now because of tariffs. You have to pay a tariff, and we're taking in money at a level that no other country has ever seen in less than a year. Actually, to be exact, less than 9 months of $17 trillion. I love the word tariff. You know, we're becoming rich as hell.
So what surprised you today, if anything?
How hostile the conservatives were to Trump. You know, here we have, it's been 10 months that he's been president, and the Supreme Court, in mostly these short orders, has given him basically everything he wanted. But the conservatives were really loaded for bear today. They were not impressed with the tariff.
So that's the end of the clip. It's interesting that Donald Trump, once again, and I don't want to belabor the point, but he clearly does not understand how tariffs work. He clearly doesn't understand, and he's making his own Solicitor General argue a really, really tough case in front of the Supreme Court. He's hurting the case. He's hurting the facts by saying he's taken in trillions, which, by the way, is inaccurate, or as they say, a lie.
Well, Leonard, you just said belaboring the point. We're kind of banging our heads up against the wall here, kind of repeating the same thing over and over again. So we apologize, PTL Nation, and they're having some fun, by the way, on the YouTube text line. But here, look, this is another example of Donald Trump, misconstruing the situation, not understanding the reality when it comes to tariffs. And then there's someone else that juxtaposed against his comments that knows what they're talking about and that understands the reality and that understands the facts. This is what, and it happens, Leonard, it's happening every single day. There are situations, it doesn't matter what the topic is, there comes some scenario where Donald Trump comes out and says something, and then there's somebody who is actually an expert, who actually knows what they're talking about, says the direct opposite, and that's the case here.
In the next clip, Senator Peter Welch is on the floor trying to pass a bill to extend the Affordable Care Act's premium tax credits, and of course the Senate Republicans are against it.
I rise today to request unanimous consent on my bill to extend the Affordable Care Act's premium tax credits. Those tax credits have made it possible for over 24 million Americans in my state of Vermont and in your state of Tennessee and across this entire country to have access to affordable health care. As you know, open enrollment began on November 1st. And what is going to happen is that as folks see this notice of the sky-high premiums, they're going to opt out of insurance altogether. And they're not going to opt out because they don't want to pay it. They're going to opt out because they can't pay it. I do believe the one thing we cannot do in good conscience is allow these premium tax credits to expire.
Is there objection? I object to my colleague's request.
Well, there you go. They would rather watch 20 or so million Americans not be able to afford their medical coverage and not get the premiums on the Affordable Care Act. They would rather watch them have to cancel their insurance because they can't afford it, because they don't want to cooperate with the Dems. They are responsible for this shutdown. They are holding, the Republicans have all the power, and I don't care what the MAGAs say, and I don't care how much they blame the Dems. And did you know in polling, 63% of America believes it's the Republicans' fault.
Yeah, well, look, this is about framing, right? This is about this issue is about framing. And you, Leonard, as well as Shat, have talked about this ad nauseum, okay? That when it comes to the ACA, right? Obviously, there are issues with it, okay? There's ways that we can improve it, right? But the reason it was brought into existence is because it's looked at as something that could benefit the American people, right? For those people out there that can't get, private insurance or insurance through their company or whatever that happens to be good, it gives them another outlet opportunity to get insurance. Democrats obviously are behind it, obviously because Barack Obama and the Obama administration brought it about. Republicans, what's their answer? Their answer is nothing. Their answer is we want to complain about.
They have concepts of.
We want to complain about Obamacare. That's their answer. They don't have. There's no plan by Republicans. There's not. They said there was a plan 9 years ago. right?
If
Donald
those,
Trump,
if those people don't get
in his
their
first
medical,
administration, said that there was a plan. There's been nothing that has come into existence when it comes to a plan from Republicans. So all they do, and by the way, when Shapiro went over to West Virginia to go to do Tim Pool's podcast, the other two guys who spoke for like 5 seconds that were on the podcast, one guy said it out loud what MAGA and Republicans think. They think that they just want to get rid of Obamacare. That's what we want to do. That's our plan. We want to get rid of Obamacare. Okay, so what are you going to replace it with? What or do you have any idea whatsoever? And of course, that guy wasn't going to engage in it. My point being is that that's all they have. They just want to complain about Obamacare.
They think if you're an immigrant and you show
they
up at the
don't have any other
hospital
plan. Yeah.
and you're at the emergency room and you fall on the ground and you're dying and you're an immigrant, their attitude is, well, I guess you should have found a way to get medical coverage. And then they say, well, you're just going to have to die. So when I say, what kind of people are that? Are you American if you believe that we should take care of poor and hungry and sick people?
Right.
And if you don't, isn't that un-American? Aren't they un-American for not wanting to do that? Because any country can be like that. That's what makes America special.
And a quick note too, right, Leonard? Another lie that they toss out there is that, the Democrats want to give free health care to undocumented immigrants.
It's illegal.
But it's a lie. It's not
illegal.
True.
But
and you can't do
the
it.
MAGA people are walking around selling that talking
100%,
point
100%.
and saying, and then you tell them, you show them the law and you say, look, the law says it's illegal, you can't do it. And they go, yeah, but they're doing it anyway. They're in a different reality. They're people that are just sold out.
That's the world we live in right now.
Soulless, maybe.
That's the world we live in. Right
so what we're going to do is after we're going to take a quick break.
Yep.
And on the other side, we'll be taking some of your phone calls, 702-221-7283. We'll be taking phone calls on the other side after a short break. We're here with Chris Wynn, and he is in studio today as a co-host, and we are on Pushing the Limits live.
Hey, everybody. Are you struggling to find a pizza place that reminds you of Brooklyn? That true blue New York style pie? Well, worry no more. Stallone's Italian Eatery Pizza is a knockout. We're located at 467 East Silverado Ranch Boulevard, just off of Premium Road, half a mile east of South Point Casino, just minutes from the Las Vegas Strip. Come by and grab a slice of pie. Plus, check out our Brooklyn-inspired Italian cuisine. Our sandwiches are super. Hero, that is. Because why be a sub when you can be a hero? Stallone's Italian Eatery is here to serve you phenomenal food, Vegas. Forget about it.
As part of the class. Plus, one student from each class will get their very own radio show. You'll be live on the air right here in Las Vegas. Radio U. The 5-day course is being offered at $699. For more information, give Radio U a call. 702-763-5024. That's 702-763-5024. Or check them out at radioyou101.com.
Okay, we're back, everyone, at the Pushing the Limits radio talk show with our co-host, Chris Wynn. Now we're going to get some calls. Don't forget to call in, 702-221-7283. Phone lines are filling up quick. I think we have maybe one left. So make your calls. You may have to hold, but we will get to you. Let's take our first caller. We have Terry.
Make your calls. You may have to hold, but we will get.
Hey, Terry, you got the radio on in the back.
We have Terry. Make your calls.
Terry, you there?
Terry, turn the.
Yes, I am.
Hey, Terry, can you turn your radio down?
Good afternoon, Leonard. Good to see you.
Yeah.
Hi, Terry.
Hi. I'll tell you what. I have been filing since Tuesday, but we sure need to remain engaged and keep the movement going after Tuesday.
Yeah, if they take their foot off the gas, they're in trouble.
That happened to me yesterday. I thought I would actually fall off my couch at home laughing when Trump was speaking at his press conference about lowering the cost of the GLP drugs and calling out the names of the people standing around him that were using them. And I'm thinking to myself, I hope they gave him approval because that's an actual violation of the HIPAA Act.
Yeah, but who's going to,
Does this man not have a clue at all? I mean, does he have not one brain cell in his head?
Yeah, but, the thing is, I think he doesn't regard people's rights to privacy and laws. I don't think he has any regard for any of that. And so it would be a HIPAA violation. When you're employed, it's a HIPAA violation to even really ask someone for certain requirements. Let's say you want to get promoted or you want to go to a different part of the company. You can't even ask someone their personal information. And if you do, if they want to tell you, they have to sign a release. So I don't think anything will ever happen to him, but it was very embarrassing. I mean, to have the president of the United States just blatantly talk about what medication people are on and what they're doing with their own bodies. But then again, they have no respect for women. They want to tell women what to do with their bodies and how, and they think they know better. And like I always say, they're not pro-life, they're pro-birth. Because after that child's born, the entire Republican Party and the MAGAs want nothing to do with that child.
And think about it, Terry. Are we really that shocked that Donald Trump at times wants to, sometimes paint around outside the line, sometimes wants to work outside of boundaries when it comes to what his actual powers are, right? And what he can actually do as commander in chief of the United States. Yeah. I mean, this is what Donald Trump, is continuously, whether he talks about it, whether he outright tries to go and tries to do it, where he actually tries to act like an authoritarian, right? He wants to. There are times where he mentioned how he wants to be dictator on day one, right? But the reality is, Donald Trump would love to be someone that calls all the shots all the time. He would love to be that guy.
Yeah, he knows better than the generals.
Yeah. So unfortunately for him, right now in the current framework of the United States, he can't do that.
Yeah, and he bankrupted 5 or 6 businesses. So I'd say he's not that great. If you're voting for him because he's a businessman, that's also a mistake. Thank you, Terry, for the call. Yeah. Always good to talk to you. And next on the line, we have Frank. Frank, you there? Hello? Oh, Frank. Frank.
Got a lot of, sounds like a quality movie he's got going on in the background there or something.
Moving on.
Old time movies.
Moving on. Mark in Las Vegas. What's on your mind, Mark?
Hi. Hey, how are you guys doing today?
We're having fun.
Great.
Well, you seem a little exercised. So, just briefly, a couple of things. One is that apparently we don't have any money for social programs, but we have an almost $1 trillion budget every year for the military. And nobody on the right side of the aisle ever thought about cutting that, for one thing. The other thing on my mind is simply that as you referred to, the hypocrisy on the right and the lying about where money goes. We have as much money as we need to create out of the Congress to fund any social program that we want.
That is correct.
But they just don't want to do it because most of those people have the wrong color of skin, according to them. Leonard, you and I talked about this. 75% of the people who are receiving assistance, especially in red states, are white.
Well, let me ask you, Mark, since I have you on the phone, let me ask you something. Is that really America first? If you're letting your own children starve, if you refuse to fund programs that feed poor people and minorities in certain neighborhoods, and you're refusing to negotiate over medical care for millions and millions of people that can't afford it. Is that really America first? I mean, he's been saying America first. You think that's America first?
No, as I recall, I think he put Argentina first the other day to the tune of either $20 or $40 billion.
Well, now it's up to $40 billion. He's actually, I guess the banks initially needed some collateral in case Malay decided he didn't want to pay his bills. But now, as far as I know, they've already given the $40 billion. This is why he was ordered by a judge yesterday to pay the SNAP benefits for the month of November. And as of today, they've only given out partial money, which is a violation. Now, I'm really interested. He's saying that he appealed it. That's why they're not paying it. But at the same time, when a judge orders you to pay, that's a judgment. You have to pay. Now, you can appeal it, and I wouldn't disagree that you can appeal it, but you have to pay the judgment.
And to the caller's point, though, to your point, to the caller's point, this leads into the false narrative that Donald Trump is for the average Joe, the average Jane in America. That he's for the regular people of the United States of America. When he does numerous things that are absolutely adversarial to those people, right? He does things.
No America first.
Yeah, when it comes to his quote unquote policies or the things that he puts forth, they absolutely are something that are aggressive towards those people, right?
Putting special police in every state, is that American?
Right.
Yeah,
I'm sorry, go ahead, Mark.
Yeah, that's okay. Most of the people listening to your show and calling in, keep in mind that we're on your side. We're on the side of sanity. It's just a few of the people that call in that are never going to get it.
We wish they would. I wish some MAGA callers or some to me, there's a difference between a shady MAGA, and a conservative Republican. A conservative Republican would never put an extra $4 trillion in the budget because that's not conservative. Okay,
Right.
so that's the MAGA. I wish some of them would call in, but apparently, they call in once in a while, but I really would invite MAGAs to call in and prove us wrong.
Yeah, in fairness, I mean, when Shap does a show, that's a thing, right? That's a big part when it comes to the entertainment aspect of this show, right? Is having people call in that are MAGA, right? That are right wingers, that are Republicans.
I wish they would,
and that kind of having that banter back and forth. That's part of that makes the show watchable and entertaining. It really is.
All right. Well, thank you for the call, Mark. Always good to talk to you. We're going to move on to Chris. Chris, you there? What's on your mind?
Oh, hello. Can you hear me?
I can hear you, Chris.
We got you.
What's on your mind?
Hey, Leonard. How's it going? Hey, Chris. What's up?
We're having fun.
Okay, so I just want to get a couple things off my mind here. Oh, by the way, thanks for taking my call.
Absolutely.
So a couple things I want to get off my chest real quick, and I'll let you guys go. So to all these MAGA idiots that are saying, they're making sure they're going to make sure that the people who need the benefits are going to get them. That's a load of crap. Because I have a close personal friend of mine who, he's one of my roommates, and he quite literally is physically incapable of working. He's literally, from what he's told, he's pretty much permanently disabled. He can't work at all, period. And
let me ask you, Chris, I don't mean to interrupt you. Can I ask you a question?
Yeah, sure.
People who don't want that person to get help, is that truly American? Is that what America stands for? To just tell people, oh, well, I guess you're just going to have to die. Oh, well, I guess your disease is just going to, you should have been a billionaire like my family. You should have been rich like my millionaire family. Is that really American or is that un-American?
That's about as American as Trump say, oh, we're going to give this country that supports terrorists a base on our soil and everything. That's about as American as you get. Yeah, don't give me that crap.
Yeah, well, just so you know, he's talking about the base that Trump has agreed to give Qatar in it's either Idaho or Montana. I can't remember which. But he's going to, and it'll be the first time.
Yeah.
Now, there's long training. Let me finish, because there's long training sessions for other countries. It is a common practice for them to come here for long periods of time and train with us and have their own little quote unquote movable base. But no one has created their own base within striking distance of American cities ever.
Or a permanent military base, in the smack dab in the middle of mainland United States of America. That's something that obviously, they use the term unprecedented because that's what it is. Yeah.
Okay. Well, thank you for the call, Chris.
Thanks,
that's
Chris.
Good call. Good information. We're going to move on to Dave. Hey, Dave, this is Leonard and Chris. What's on your mind?
Hey, what's Leonard? What's up, Chris? Thank you for taking my call, by the way.
Absolutely.
So, all right.
You know, I'm going to tell you right now. Let's just put it out there right now. So this guy in the White House, we already know he's going to do everything he can to, in order for, it's going to be hard for us to drag his ass out by the Democrats. So let's just get it out there right now. He's going to be tough. He's going to be stubborn. You know, he wants to stay in there or bring his buddies in there to take over. As far as I'm concerned, I don't want to live in that type of democracy like Russia or Germany or whatnot. I'm sick of this guy. And this guy is nothing but a bastard. Or that's what my mom always called him. And that is a dictionary word, so it's okay. It's FCC compliant. So he's a stupid bastard. So that's what he is. Okay. So as far as I'm concerned, we got to, you know.
Well, we are on AM radio, Dave. So, you know, let's use other words like. Can we say?
Well, bastard's not. He stepped in. He was in line. He's fine, right? Oh, did he say something that was
because of the radio
that was not compliant?
That's okay.
Okay, look, but to his point, right, Leonard? To his point. Here's to your point. By the way, we let's be abundantly clear here. Okay, Donald Trump is not going to be president of the United States in 2028 and beyond. All right, I understand Steve Bannon and some of his minions want to talk about it. Right now, it's absolutely, positively unconstitutional. It is illegal for him to be able to run for another term. Okay, so it kind of gets me my blood boiling, and judging by the chat, you know, I've come in here on a 10 already on the show, and I get that, but. He is not going to be running again. Set aside the fact that he's that's not over 80 years old.
The question is he going to leave?
Anyway.
Is he going to leave? That's the question.
Well, I mean,
if he's occupying all 50 states,
he has to leave
military,
because
kind of
the Constitution is still in place as of right now. And
Trump has already said
on January 6th.
Yeah.
If he's stubborn on January 6th, he's going to be stubborn. If he's stubborn on January 6th,
I don't think he'll just package stuff and leave. I don't see that happening.
He's going to be stubborn. He's going to be stubborn again on his last term. So what makes you think that if we learned from on the first term that it was hard for him to get him out of there, what makes you think that it's not going to be any different on the second term?
I think that's why they occupied DC. They put up fencing. They have Pete Hegseth and not Pam Bondi, but Kristi Noem are now living on military bases.
Right.
Okay, but not to belabor the point, but doesn't that kind of sound also like 1930s? Because that's what they did.
Yes, but let's be clear again. The framework right now is in place where he cannot. It's unconstitutional. So I get the caller's point, right? And Leonard, you're kind of reiterating his point a little bit. There's not a situation right now or scenario in which he can run again. I understand what happened on January 6th, but what was the reality? What are the facts about January 6th? Yes, January 6th took place. It was a horrible day in United States history, but Donald Trump was not put back in the White House, right? Donald Trump did not win that election. Okay. Donald Trump was not the president between 2020 and 2024. So
who's going to get him out of there?
Yeah,
who's going to get him out of there?
Well, the process is going to get him out of there.
United States Supreme Court?
The process. The process.
I have to disagree. I think he's going to physically stay there and physically say, I'm not leaving.
What do you mean physically? He's going to be over 80. I mean, physically,
well,
he's going to be removed by the.
What I mean by that is
if it's physically, the Capitol Police would just pick his fat ass up and take him out of the White House.
Not if they're taking orders from him. They'd have to go go against their own orders.
These are things that aren't real, though. That's not real. He's not taking orders from him.
Well, then remember,
I'm just saying. I know both of you guys are kind of teaming up on me now. Like this could be a reality. It's not a reality right now.
I believe
it's BS. Yeah,
I'm going to tell you right now. He's a very stubborn SOB. He's a very stubborn SOB. I tell you right now, he's going to be hard to get him out of there. So I'm just telling you right now.
There's a reason why he's putting military in every state, and he's already said that he may say there's a war, and he said, hey, if there's a war. And we don't have an election, and he blames Ukraine, just like Ukraine.
Guys. He's going to be over 80 years old. We just talked about Joe Biden, between 2023 and 2024, right? About him losing his fastball. He's going to be over 80. Donald Trump, I understand, kind of the direction you guys are going and the arguments you're making. And look, I'm a Democrat. This is a fight that I like to have. But it's not a reality.
Really?
It's not a reality. No, it's a fight.
That.
I mean, when I say it's a fight, I like to have. I like to talk about it.
A conspiracy.
I know, but it's just not real. It's not a real thing that he's going to stay. Okay, until it is a real thing. Until it is.
I didn't think that masked men was a reality. Right. Walking around in camouflage, throwing people on the ground, throwing people into vans with no plates on, white vans and black cars. If you would have asked me a couple of years ago, I would have said never in America. But you know what? Yep. That's the reality. So when why would you think he would put military in all 50 states. He already said he's going to have protest suppression training and put them in all 50 states. So anyway, let's move on. Let's get to the next caller. And we have Steve. Hey, Steve, what's on your mind? It's Leonard and Chris.
Hi, and glad to meet you. Well, I have a question.
Yes.
For Biden, from when Biden was in office and he was losing it, Republicans went out of their minds trying to get him out. Why is with all the physicals this guy has had, and he's not passing them? That's pretty obvious, and you can see every day he's losing it. Can't they do a 25th Amendment on him?
Because they're cowards, and they bend the knee to Trump every day. They wear the Donald Trump knee pads 24/7. No one's gonna ever try to stand against him. And he obviously his health. He doesn't look healthy. He has things appearing on his body. His life force looks like it's leaving his body. He looks very tired. And so, but they're never going to use a 25th Amendment. Now, in the midterms, if we turn the House, if we turn the Senate, the 25th Amendment could come into play. And I think if we take both, the impeachment proceedings are probably on the agenda.
Yeah, Leonard, to the caller's point, right? The ship has kind of sailed on that when it comes to Republicans doing the right thing. It was Mitch McConnell back in his first term, right, where he bent the knee. Now it's the poster child, and I use that term literally, poster child, Mike Johnson, who is now doing it too, where they completely compromised their morals, compromised their ideology, compromised their evangelical backgrounds just about a Trump. And
Can I ask you
that's
a question?
the reality of the situation. And so, no, I don't think there's any situation where the Republican Party would somehow do an about face and actually go back and Nicole on the text, Nicole on the YouTube text chat points this out. This is not your dad's. This is not your older brother's Republican Party anymore. It just isn't. It's been hijacked by MAGA.
It's MAGA.
And that's the way it's going to be. And the only way out of it for Republicans is for all things Trumpism to go bye-bye, which it's going to do unless J.D. Vance or somebody, underneath Donald Trump that still believes in all things MAGA is elected president in 2028.
Let me ask you a question. Do you watch CNN and Jake Tapper? And he wrote that book about Biden that made Biden look very bad and his regime look very bad. But my question is this: if Jake Tapper is so interested and so worried about the health of the president, writes a book and then goes all over the United States promoting it, how come he's not saying anything, not a peep about Trump? How come Jake Tapper on CNN doesn't say anything about the health of Trump?
This is more hypocrisy, Leonard. That's all it is. Okay. And by the way, let's not take his book as the gospel either. Okay. We all are Americans. We all saw what happened with Joe Biden. Okay. Sometime between late 2023 and 2024, Joe Biden absolutely lost his fastball, right? He started to deteriorate from a cognitive standpoint. I'm not going to sit here and act like a doctor. Okay. I'm just looking at it strictly from an observer, an American who saw what happened. And by the way, the facts play it out. Okay. Because he bows out of, he did something that was unprecedented really at the time when it comes to modern politics. He bowed out of running for re-election. Okay. And you had the unprecedented thing of having Kamala Harris come in and be the candidate. There's no time for a primary, right? And so you had that scenario. So we all understood the situation with Joe Biden, not the details directly when it comes to him as far as medically, right? But we saw how it all played out. And the idea that Donald Trump's still in his first year of a 4-year term. We had 3 more years of dealing with, and you've already seen the multitude and multiple comments by Donald Trump that are either, nonsensical, just gibberish all over the place. Yeah. Like just there's been numerous times where Donald Trump has shown, right, that he is someone who's losing his fastball and he's losing it before he turns 80. Yeah. You know what I mean?
Well,
so
thank you, Steve, for the call.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Yeah.
That was a good call.
Yeah.
Next, we're going to talk to Frank. Hey, Frank, this is Leonard and Chris. What's on your mind?
Hi, Mr. Governor. Leonard, I just have a comment. I'm wondering when all is said and done and the Democrats take over again, what will be the future of the Republican Party? Will they be arrested or what? Or
well, that's an interesting point because a lot of people have pointed out that Donald Trump has immunity, but Pam Bondi doesn't have presidential immunity. Dan Bongino doesn't have it. Kash Patel doesn't have it. J.D. Vance, maybe you could argue that he does. But what's going to happen to these people who violated multiple people's rights month after month, year after year, and they don't have the same protection? So I think at someday there might be some indictments, and they may have to come back and take a look at how many human rights were violated and how many laws were broken and how many times the Constitution was violated.
Do they keep up with all the illegal acts and broken laws that the Republican Party has done? Do they keep up with all the
Absolutely. It's all on video. It's all documented. It's all, I mean, if it wasn't for social media, half of America wouldn't even know what's really going on out there, what people are really doing. Kristi Noem standing on a 4-story building, you know, with guns and a vest on, shooting rubber bullets at people who are peacefully protesting in America, which, like I said before, Chris, I'd never thought I'd see.
Yeah.
But I think that the time has come. The time may come where, and I don't want to get off topic, but the International Court tried to bring human rights violations against the Trump administration, and they were, you know, power played and told not to. So what happens when the Trump administration is not in power anymore? Is the International Court going to get involved?
Mm-hmm. And to the call, and to your point, the caller's point, right? When it comes to this, you don't want to get into a situation where it's tit for tat, right? Where now, because right now, right, you have multiple Democratic lawmakers, right, and people that are prominent Democrats who are getting, you know, rung up by the Trump administration, right, by the Justice Department for frivolous cases, right? When it comes to, you know, Adam Schiff and some of these cases,
those people,
they're going to go nowhere. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
It's going to end up going nowhere. But you don't want to, you know, engage in that once if a Democrat gets elected in 2028. You don't want the Democrats coming back and doing the same thing. Now, look, if there are situations where there are legitimate cases, right, where there are legitimate charges, okay, that take place, and you can indict somebody, and it's a case that there's a view that you have that you're going to actually convict somebody of actual charges, then do that, right? Convict them to the full extent of the law. But you do not want to get into a back and forth with MAGA and Republicans in this kind of, because you got an R next to your name, we're gonna find something to charge you with. Or if you got an L, if you have a D next to your name, we're gonna find something to charge you with. You know.
Well, thank you for the call. We're gonna move on to the next caller. Next caller is Robert. Robert, you're on PTL Nation. What's on your mind?
Hi guys, I just drove by the airport and
no one was
I counted 15 planes waiting to take off.
Yeah, they're saying that they're up to, I want to say 40% of services are shut down.
The exact numbers are in the next 30 days. There's supposed to be a 10% reduction
by Friday.
By Friday.
Yeah,
there's going to be a 10% reduction.
So it's up to
when it comes to staff, right, that are working there, and so that's going to cause issues when it comes to flights and cancel. Which, by the way, sucks for me because I got a flight scheduled I'm flying to the Bay Area.
You think you'll have
in early December. Yeah, so I'm kind of.
They might have it worked
so
out
it might be fine. We'll see what happens, but yeah, I mean it's just another byproduct, right, of the government shutdown.
I don't think the Republicans care. I think they see those lines, and a lot of them have private planes anyway. And so Kristi Noem just supplied more planes to the tune of, I want to say, $200 or $300 million worth of planes, so they don't have to wait in line anymore. Where they go, and that's the MAGA Republicans. That's what they are.
I live in the flight path, and it reminds me of September 11th, with no planes flying over.
Right.
You know, real quick, that Project 2025, everything in that they're doing. They want to do away with the FDIC, that the money that guarantees your savings. The reason there's probably no money for SNAP is because they took it.
I believe there's money for SNAP. They even admitted that there's $6 billion in reserve in emergency money that could be used as part of the SNAP program from the USDA. So the money is sitting there. It's just that they don't want to use it. But what kind of people want to starve other people so they could just watch them be miserable while they give billionaires tax credits, tax breaks, tax abatements, and all the money and more? And by the way, don't even get me started on the crypto scheme.
Right, exactly,
we'll
right.
Be here, we'd be here.
And by the way, didn't Donnie say that he doesn't even know what 2025 is? That has nothing to do with this administration, right? He has no clue what that's all about. anyway. With
Right. And his face is orange. Real quick. After World War II, a lot of the Nazis went to Argentina. So where's that money going? You know?
Oh, it's going to another dictator regime to try to
Right.
Well, what they wanted to do is they wanted to save the peso, right? And so because Malay drove the peso into the ground, it was worth almost nothing in Argentina. And so
the dollar will be the same.
But why is he bailing out another country when he has children who can't even get their SNAP benefits? Most children, the best meal of their week are the 5 days they go to school. When they go home on the weekend, the parents or the family don't have a lot of money to feed them. So the best food they get all week is from the SNAP program.
Right. Well, I appreciate you guys. Keep up the good work.
Thank you for the call. Call in now at 702-221-7283. I'm here with Chris Wynn. Yes, sir. Chris Wynn, Chris W. or C W.
C Wynn. You can call me C Wynn. Chris Wynn.
And we're taking your calls. Let's go to Carl. Carl, you there? What's on your mind?
Yeah. Yeah, hey, and Chris, both of you. Listen, this past election, I just want to give you my opinion, see what you think about it. I think MAGA's finished. What's happening is close to 30 million people who didn't vote in the last presidential election, had they done, these are mostly Democrats, Harris would have probably won. But what's happening now is they voted this last Tuesday, and you see what's happening. And Proposition 50 in California, which they passed, gave them 5 more congressional seats, which they only needed 1 or 2 to pass laws. Now they've got 5. I think MAGA's finished. I think it's going to be just wiped out. And that's basically what's happened. I just want to I think Harris would have been president.
I would say, Carl, that, that's, I don't want to say wishful thinking, but the bottom line is, yeah, we had a good night and we kind of pushed back pretty hard. But if the Democrats are not willing to change their leadership and do the work and put in the work, I think it's going to be a short-lived victory. And remember, the midterms are like a year away. That's a long time. Trump can do a lot of damage. They can try to change a lot of minds. And so I hope you're right. I really do. I hope you're correct.
But I think most of the Democrats who didn't vote, that was close to 30 million, the presidential election, have seen what's going on. And that's what happened around the country Tuesday. And I think it's going to only pick up. I think the Democrats are going to discover what's going on. And they need more people who are younger and to push what's going on. And I think it's going to change everything. And I think the whole Congress and the Senate is going to change.
I hope you're right, Carl, because we are all hopeful, but you got to remember these are very corrupt people, and they're used to getting their way, and they have billionaires behind them, and there's going to be I don't know what it's going to be yet, but there's going to be a tremendous pushback, and I just hope that the blue wave can continue.
Yeah, Carl, you're right too. That was one of the factors, right? Why Kamala Harris lost is because of the enthusiasm from our side of the aisle, from Democrats and from independents too, who didn't show up to the polls, right? And were not able to overtake Trump. So I mean, there was a number lost and why Trump won, but that is definitely one of them. Yep.
Trump only won the popular vote by under 1%.
Right.
I mean, it's
1.5.
It's not any kind of a mandate or anything. And what's happening is they're starting to pick up, and by the midterms, not only California is going to give them more seats in the Congress, but they're going to win a lot of. Just going to completely wipe out the Republican power. I think completely.
Carl, make sure you
in the midterms.
Tell everybody in your family and your friends and your neighbors and everyone across America. Tell them to make sure they get out and vote, because if we don't get out and vote,
I'm
going to vote. I'm going to difference.
Yeah, I'm going to vote 10 times myself.
You can't.
So.
That would be illegal, but I would like.
I know. I'm joking. I know.
All right. So if you want to call in, we still have time. 702-221-7283. We're going to take a short break, and then we're going to come back and on the other side and continue the discussion.
Hey, everybody. Are you struggling to find a pizza place that reminds you of Brooklyn? That true blue New York style pie? Well, worry no more. Stallone's Italian Eatery Pizza is a knockout. We're located at 467 East Silverado Ranch Boulevard, just off of Premier Road, half a mile east of South Point Casino, just minutes from the Las Vegas Strip. Come by and grab a slice of pie. Plus, check out our Brooklyn-inspired Italian cuisine. Our sandwiches are super hero, that is, because why be a sub when you can be a hero? Stallone's Italian Eatery is here to serve you phenomenal food, Vegas. Forget about it.
Who would have thought there'd be so many kids playing ice hockey in the desert? Jake Helb's Hockey Foundation and the Las Vegas Ice Warriors, founded by Gina Yousafzai 8 years ago, made it possible for families who can't afford the equipment and fees. Donate today at www.hockeyforkids.org and help us continue making a difference. Join us in supporting Jake Helb's Hockey Foundation and the Las Vegas Ice Warriors, where every kid gets a shot at the starting line. Just a reminder, our website is www.hockeyforkids.org.
You are way too smart, way too talented, way too good to be where you are. You are meant to be making way more money, feel way hotter in your body, and having way more fun. Hi, I'm Nicole Mitchell, and I'm a life coach. I help you get hotter and richer. If that is what you're looking for, you can find me at NicoleMitchell.com. My name, Nicole, is with a K, NicoleMitchell.com. You can reach out to me on my website or on Instagram, and I will be happy to be in touch and figure out what you're looking for and how I can support you in getting there.
Have you ever dreamed of having your own radio show or a podcast, but just didn't think it was possible? Well, dreams can come true. Radio U. Radio U is a 5-day course that'll teach you how to acquire your dream show. We'll teach you how to host, how to write commercial, how to interview, how to market, how to write a contract, and most importantly, how to monetize your dream radio show. You'll learn from some of the best in the business with over 75 years in broadcast experience. You'll learn from people like me. And the best part, every single student will be live on the radio as part of the class. Plus, one student from each class will get their very own radio show. You'll be live on the air right here in Las Vegas. Radio U. The 5-day course is being offered at $699. For more information, give Radio U a call. 702-763-5024. That's 702-763-5024.
Okay, welcome back right here on the Fishing Limits Radio Show with your host, Mr. Parnell, and co-host, C. Wynn, in studio today with us. Brian is traveling today, and he will debating.
He's doing a little get-together, right, Leonard? He's doing it in a comedy club, right, or something. It's going to be like a panel, and they're not going to be talking like regular political issues. They're going to be doing – it's like a round table. One of the guests, they switched out women that are going to be on the panel, and it's going to be about like dating issues and stuff, right?
Cool.
That's what it says. They got Tim Pool as like the
Brian's
the main guy, because he's the guy that has the biggest following. Yeah,
isn't he an expert on dating, Brian?
Well, I guess so, because he's going to be on the. Hey, Shap's going to be on the panel.
Shap's going to be on the panel.
So whoever's there that gets a chance to see
it.
Are they going to be live streaming this thing? Because we got to watch it, because it's going to be hilarious.
I hope
we got to watch it.
Last time I think they posted it after the fact, but I don't know if it's going to be live or not. But getting a little bit more to a more serious issue, the Trump administration has increased their presence on the Gaza Strip, as you know, and they're trying to keep the ceasefire, even though, Hamas is still taking people out of their homes and throwing them on the ground. If they find out that they were speaking against Hamas, the word is in the news that they're executing the people in the Gaza Strip, and Israel still bombing them when they think there's too many people gathering somewhere. And also Israel is as far as today, as far as I know, is still not allowing food aid in from the north or the south. So it's going to become a more catastrophic situation. And my question is, who's going to get Hamas out of the Gaza Strip?
Yeah, look, I'm not going to sit here and act like I'm someone who's going to give you all the answers when it comes to the conflict in Israel with respect to the Palestinians and the Israelis. All right. But correct me if I'm wrong. It wasn't just a matter of days ago that the Trump administration apparently brokered a peace deal, or a ceasefire in that region.
He
and
wanted
then all
the
of a
peace
sudden,
prize.
like a matter of hours later,
Hours.
both sides
Yes.
broke that ceasefire. And now we're back to another situation where, you're having activity on both sides of this issue. Look, it has been a complicated issue for decades, right, Leonard? All right, across the board. This is not going to be a fix that's going to be easy by any stretch of the imagination. But again, I keep
Trump
banging
lying.
my head against the wall, right? We keep talking about this. The idea that Donald Trump has any idea how to fix this, or that especially some of the people that have been tapped to address the situation have the credibility or the wherewithal or know what they're doing when it comes to fixing the situation from the American standpoint, right? Because this is something that people miss too.
He thought
this is about the Israeli government, right? Israel, and about Palestinians, right? And dealing with a terrorist organization in Hamas, right? And having that's the dynamic.
Well, they thought
it's
they
not
were
just
gonna...
about America doing whatever they want, okay? And being able to decide what the end game is here. All right. There are multiple parties involved. And it's laughable to think that Donald Trump has any idea.
Trump thought that they were going to level Gaza, that they were going to completely level 90% of the buildings are gone. 60% of the actual residents are gone, flattened. Everyone's seen film of the Gaza Strip. He thought that they were going to just topple it. And then him and Netanyahu, and this is kind of how it sounded to me, we're going to go in there with their son, with his son, Eric, and they were going to just build hotels, and it was going to be the Riviera of the Middle East. And he thought that, the United Emirates, and he thought that Saudi Arabia and Qatar and all these other countries were going to be okay with it. Like Jordan was going to be okay with it. What he didn't realize is that now you have approximately 1.5 million people pushed into a certain corner, and they have a dividing line, and the Palestinians have to stay on their side. And there's a lot of border security and security in the middle, and Hamas is on one side and the IDF is on the other. And so, like you said, there's no easy fix. This is not somewhere they're just going to level it. And what do you do with the 1.5 million people that are already living there? I mean, it's a very small strip, and it's already packed. And Trump thought that he was going to come in there and just with Netanyahu and get rich and build Trump hotels. That's what I think the plan was.
Yeah. Again, look, it's a plethora of lies and just deception with respect to the American people, right? And the Trump administration, how they're portraying what the reality is on the ground over there and the actual solutions to the problem that exists over there. And it's, again, I keep bringing this up. It's complicated. It's a situation I think that I don't think Donald Trump or many in his administration are equipped to deal with it. And so therefore, we're going to have a stalemate, and we're going to have a situation where they're both Israel and the Palestinians are going to be going back and forth on the situation. And you address what's going on as far as on the ground there. It's tragic, and it's horrific, and it's terrible in every way.
They're
shape,
starving
or form.
an entire.
It's just bad. It's just the whole thing is just
Netanyahu has warrants for his arrest out
Yeah.
all over the world for crimes against humanity. Hamas is running around using shoulder-fired missiles to hunt down IDF or their own people. They're the Palestinians who they govern, the Palestinians, and because they don't like certain people, they're literally going in their house, pulling them out, and then the IDF is actually exploding bombs. Didn't they explode a bomb the other day that almost looked like a mini nuke because of the way it spread out? Did you see that video?
I did not see that. No.
Yeah,
I
they
was
were
not aware of that.
speculating that it could have been, but my thing is, I don't think Trump is going to be helpful over there at all. But moving back to America, Mike Johnson last night tried to blame again the Democrats for not cooperating, for starving the children, for not. You got to remember that the entire the Democratic caucus, the Democrats are in their offices doing their job. The Republicans have not been in the House for almost 7 weeks. So whose fault is it? If you're ready to negotiate, if you and I want to do a business contract and you're ready to negotiate and I leave you sitting in your office for 7 weeks, do I really want to negotiate anything? Do I really care that people are starving? Do I care that they don't have medical coverage that they need? No, obviously I don't. And he's trying to blame the Dems, but I think the people out there are smart enough to understand that it's the Republicans. They have all the power. They have the presidency, they have the House, they have the Senate, they have the Attorney General's office, they have the FBI, they have the DOJ. I mean, who's got all the power?
Well, here's the deal. I'll respond to what you just said, Leonard, right? Like the government shut down. So what is he talking about? That Democrats are not doing anything when it comes to the Israel situation, right? Or the situation in the Middle East right now, which is what we've been talking about here. It's not like the Democrats are able to do anything right now either because the government shut down. So so it's kind of in limbo right now. What we should talk about probably, and what we should put our cards on the table about is kind of this narrative in the United States, right? Is that Democrats, this whole thing about you can do multiple things at one time, right? You can have compassion and empathy for the innocent Palestinian people and the suffering that they're going through,
and the starvation.
And you can also understand where Israel's coming from, but you can also criticize Israel. You know what I mean? When the Israeli government are doing things, with respect to the word genocide's been tossed out there a lot, right? When there's been legitimate criticism of the Israeli government, multiple things can be true. You can do all of those things. And again, when it comes to politics in America, and this is part of the political discourse in this country, whether it's Republicans or Democrats, they'll try to characterize it in a way where it's the other side that it's their fault, and we have no culpability whatsoever.
And it's
that's
not necessarily
that's what you're saying
sides,
from the Trump administration,
right, Chris?
Yeah.
It's not necessarily sides. When people are starving,
no
there's
doubt.
no side. If I
that's the point I just made.
If I say the Palestinians need some help, they need some relief,
absolutely,
and they're committing genocide and they're starving them, it's not because I'm a Dem. It's not because I'm a liberal or the left. How about I'm just a human being with compassion? How about empathy? How about concerning yourself with what happens to other people? And yes, Israel had every right to defend themselves, but now it's a ridiculous situation and it needs to be addressed somehow. But there's no ceasefire as far as I can see. They're attacking each other pretty much almost every day. So Donald Trump, I guess he didn't bring peace in the Middle East, did he?
Yeah, and it also leads into this, kind of anti-Semitic, word that's tossed around. Again, projection, right, Leonard? Projection. It's people who are actually engaging in anti-Semitism or are actually, adversaries to Jewish people or to Israelis, right? That are actually the ones engaging in anti-Semitism that are calling the other people.
It's not anti-Semitism to say, hey, that's going too far.
Exactly.
That's not anti-Semitism.
You can criticize Israel's government without being anti-Semitic. That's the bottom line. You can do that.
They've gone way too far, and Netanyahu's losing even the Hasidic Jews, even the ones that are the extremists, the religious extremists. He's starting to lose them. And so I personally, this is my opinion, you may disagree, some people do, I think Netanyahu behind the scenes wants to continue to have this war because they do have a ceasefire and they have peace and the war is over. I think he's gone. He's going to get voted out the next day and he won't have any power anymore. And keep in mind, the news reported that in about 2007, 2008, it was Netanyahu that was caught sending briefcases of cash to Hamas. He was sending they can't even count the number on the amount of money that he sent to Hamas to bring them into power, to take over from the Palestinian regime and come into power and take them over. So I don't think it's simple from that context, but I think Netanyahu knows that if he allows that war to end, he's going to be voted out. I'm pretty sure.
And what you just described, it leads into what I just said, right? Where it's a complicated situation, right, Leonard? There's a lot of moving parts that are involved here, and it's not going to be just some easy fix like Donald Trump rolling over and hanging out with Netanyahu and chopping it up and fixing it, or sending Jared Kushner over there to wax poetic
or Eric
with either side, right? You know what I mean? It's not going to be anything like that. This is going to take something that's going to take
my dad said we're going to build hotels.
Yeah.
My dad
We're
said.
going to turn it into Beirut from the 1950s. Okay,
and then he tries to look all
Trump
sincere.
style. Yeah,
Eric tries to look sincere and genuine and say, it's a really good idea. Yeah. It's really good that we want to do this. We're gonna help the Palestinian people. We're gonna give them they're not gonna rebuild. They're gonna kick them out if they could. Mm-hmm. If there was room or some other country would take them, I believe they would kick the Palestinians out now, even right now. Mm-hmm. But it's too many people in a small area. And I just I know we could probably beat this point up a little bit more, but I feel that there's not going to be, just like Ukraine and Russia. Mm-hmm. No solution anytime soon. Why won't Trump give long-range missiles to Ukraine? Any other president would have at this point. Why is he letting Russia take advantage of them? He gets a phone call with Putin, and he says, "Oh, it was a very good phone call, very positive. He knows my position." I said, Vladimir, stop. And then that night, Russia bombs Ukraine. The very same night.
Yeah. So, Leonard, you brought this up at the top of the show.
I think he's tooling me.
And this is an important point that you brought up at the top of the show, talking about Donald Trump as a businessman, right? This whole facade and nonsense that he's some great businessman and some great negotiator. It's all businesses. BS. It's all nonsense.
He bankrupt every business he ever had.
To this point, what makes anybody think that Donald Trump, Leonard, is some guy that deals with foreign policy in a good way? Name me one on the text line, whether it's on Facebook or on YouTube. Or Leonard, give me an example of Donald Trump having some type of victory with respect to negotiating some deal, whether it's Vladimir Putin or Zelensky in that situation, whether it's obviously the situation in the Middle East, whether it's any other situation. And don't get me started on all these and all this BS that him tossing out that he alleviated all these wars across the world. It's complete utter absurdity.
India said straight out. Yes. India said he did not help us find peace. Now, Pakistan kissed his butt a little bit, because it was in their best interest.
Okay, so they kissed his butt. Does that mean that translated to Donald Trump as some guy that fixes,
he had nothing
fixes
to do.
foreign policy? It is all a lie. The guy is a sham, all right? And look, he got elected president, okay? So that's the one thing that MAGA and Republicans hand out on, right? Well, he got elected. So
Thailand and Cambodia did not have a war, okay? There's been a moving border between those countries forever. And every once in a while, it kind of kicks up and it heats up and they shoot at each other and they bomb each other. Mm-hmm. And he kind of made a comment like, I don't think you should be doing that. That's not. And by the way, they're still fighting to this day. Okay, so he didn't stop anything. He didn't bring peace anywhere. There's no real ceasefire. And the same thing in the Congo. They're still occupied by the military. They're still getting bombed every day. He didn't stop any conflict there at all.
I'll bounce this off you right now, Leonard. Okay, since day one when Donald Trump became president back in 2000, in early 2017, right? He has engaged numerous times in talking about himself, how he's great at this and great at that. This is a guy who has been a transactional man from day one. It's all about for Donald Trump, Leonard. It's all about getting through the next day. I know a guy. He's a New York guy, right? New York guy. I know a guy who knows a guy who knows a guy.
A lot of people.
That's his whole MO.
Several people.
That's how he operates. Okay. He is not some master negotiator. He is not a good businessman. He is. I will say this. He is a good self-promoter. Okay. You have to give him credit on that because he has been able to promote himself, right, and others around him too. That he was kind of like a symbol and an icon in American culture as a guy that's a symbol of success, right? A guy that's rich, because he is. He's rich. He's always been rich.
He said he was going to clean the
swamp.
He's
always been rich. So he's kind of been that. He's had that.
Now he is the swamp.
But when it comes to him on the political spectrum, right, Leonard? When it comes to him being being the commander-in-chief, because he's been the commander-in-chief now for, almost 5 years, right? It's been all about him being transactional, getting by day to day.
What's in it for me? That's the
tossing
first
things
thing
out.
he says.
What's in it for me?
What's in it for me?
Yeah, that's his whole MO, my friend.
Hey,
that's how
these
he
kids
operates.
are starving. We need to get them some food. Okay, what's in it for me? What are you negotiating?
Yeah, but Leonard, if you talk to MAGA, that's not the case, right? MAGA, they
They're
worship
not
the
in-
guy.
they're not
They
in
worship
reality.
the guy.
Let me ask you something. Let me not to get on the Christian phase,
Right.
but is it Christian to worship someone who's immoral?
Absolutely not.
Because one guy, we had a caller last week talking about immorality and the Dems and this and that, and I asked the guy didn't have an answer, obviously, and I said, "Is it immoral to worship someone who's immoral? Do you worship Trump? Oh yeah, Trump's the greatest. Oh yeah, I guess you can call it worship." And so, and then he said he was a Christian. He said, "Yes, I'm a Christian, and it's immoral for what the Dems are doing." And I said, "Can you worship an immoral person?" And I remember the phone call because he had no response.
Yeah, you've seen the clip multiple times, right? Where the reporter asks him his favorite parts of the Bible, and his answers, "Oh, that's too personal. I don't really want to get into that."
The stories,
translation,
the pictures.
translation, right, Leonard? Is that I did not read the Bible. I have no idea. I would be shocked if Donald Trump read even like a full paragraph
How could
of
a
the Bible.
parable? How could a parable make sense to someone who creates their own reality? You know what I'm saying?
Exactly.
When there's a story in the Bible and Jesus is telling a story about a blind man and how his faith made him see, and he went into the River Jordan. I don't even think Donald Trump, because of his narcissistic personality, I don't think he can even understand what exactly they're trying to teach you, what they're trying to say. They're trying to say, an act of kindness can go a long way. An act of kindness is Christian. And they say, well, what's in it for me? Oh, yeah, I'll do an act of kindness. I'll do that. But what do I get? Well, that's not Christian.
And the word hypocrisy jumps in there when you're talking about evangelicals, right, Leonard? And
Mike
Donald
Johnson.
Trump. Because look, Donald Trump is not somebody who's overly religious in any way, shape, or form, right? You're not seeing Donald Trump going to church every Sunday. You're not seeing somebody that really does, espouse the principles that the evangelicals and people of faith do in this country, right? Donald Trump has nothing to do with that.
You can't be the
right?
same.
But the reason why guys like Mike Johnson, you just pointed out, and others, the reason why they support him is because it means because he has an R next to his name, and Republicans, all right, will be able to do things that the evangelical right want to be done when it comes to politics. That's the one reason why they support Donald Trump. It's the only reason.
We're going to have to save that rest of that because I could talk about that all day.
Absolutely.
We'll save that for next time. And, we're coming to the end of the show. And thank you so much, Chris, for being here. It was great chopping it up with you. And thank you to the callers. Thank you to Brian for allowing us to come in and talk. So what do we have for next week? Next week, Monday, Brian is here all week, as far as I know, unless he gets invited to the UNF America tour or something like that again. I'll be in on Wednesday of next week. Beyond that, I don't know what any of the other plans or guests are, but I think we're trying to get a special guest for next week, right? They reached out to Marjorie Taylor Greene, if you can believe that. And so that would be great. And the only thing is he can't have Robbie Roadsteamer on at the same time because he'll call her big horse legs or something like that. So
really? Oh wow!
Oh yeah, you didn't hear the song? You didn't hear the Robbie Roadsteamer?
I did not.
Oh, you got to go online and hear Robbie
check that
Roadsteamer
out.
sing about Marjorie. Thank you, Numchuck. Everyone, have a good day, and we'll see you next week.
Hey, everybody. Are you struggling to find a pizza place that reminds you of Brooklyn? That true blue New York style pie? Well, worry no more. Stallone's Italian Eatery Pizza is a knockout. We're located at